Hi guys, welcome to another video from Thoughts in Motion. My name's George and I brought Adam along with me today, who's kindly joined me to talk a bit about identity. Who are we? What does it mean to us? And how can we go about shaping our identities in a world where it's so full of like famous people here, there, Instagram models, we're talking Love Island. How do we know who we are in this world today?
Exactly, so let's get into it.
So the first thing we want to talk about today is first establishing who are we, and that we should be proud of being who we are. Like, there is no reason to be ashamed of your personality, as long as you're not going out trying to kill people or verbally abusing handicapped teenagers. It might be a little bit suspicious. So yeah, don't do that, kids, definitely not. But it needs to be acknowledged that there's such a broad range of personality types, you can't describe more in one go. You get your introverts, you get your extroverts, you get the people who want to be the centre of attention and those who want to shy away a little bit, those who are really chatty and bubbly, and those who like maybe think, well actually I just want to be a little bit quieter. All of these types are absolutely fine, and if you're one of those types, it's just about recognising it and like owning it and thinking, okay, this is authentically me and it's absolutely fine for me to show this to the world and be unashamed of it. What do you think of that, Adam?
I think that's 100% spot on. I think when it comes to who you are, it's like a lot of us feel like you said, almost compare ourselves to these famous people, like especially like Love Island, Geordie Shore, those kinds of people. We look at these people and we think they have everything that we don't. And when we look at ourselves, it's almost so easy to find fault.
We feel inadequate, don't we?
Yeah, we feel like, oh, this is wrong about me, this is wrong, and then it's like a rabbit hole that we just plummet down. So when it comes to who you are as a person, let's put aside the idea of changing and growing for a second and just focus on accepting the personality that we have.
Focusing on the right now.
Focusing on who you are right now as a person. If you can't accept that, there's something that's kind of gone wrong. So when it comes to you as a person, you need to learn how to accept who you are and be okay with that.
Absolutely. The phrase nobody's perfect absolutely rings true here. With every single personality type, no matter how big you are, no matter how famous you are, there's always going to be something about you that other people don't like. And it's an impossible task to try and get everyone to like you. It's almost dangerous, in fact, to try and think everyone must love me, otherwise I'm a complete failure. Because it means you start trying too hard to like please everyone, and a people pleaser rarely gets anywhere, because all they do is try and be what they think other people want them to be. And in doing so, they come across as fake, a bit insecure sometimes. People can detect that an absolute mile off. They go, there's just something about Adam that's just not quite right. I don't know what it is. There's something about him that's not quite right. When you start being authentic, there's no reason to hide behind these smoke screens anymore. You just are and you just be. And there's no one better than yourself who knows who you are. So once you've come to terms with that, displaying that to the world is an absolute doddle. Yeah,
I mean, obviously, like you said, there's a good book on this, actually, just as a side note, called The Disease to Please. If you do find yourself being a people pleaser, I highly recommend picking that up. But when we say, like, obviously, we could take social situations as an example. Like, say you and I go to, we go out for a drink or whatever, and you're like, hey man, your work colleague is really cool, I want to bring him along. And I'm like, cool, that's totally sound. But then I meet this guy, he makes jokes that are way kind of too pushy, too like, oh, do you like this joke?
It's a bit too much, like in your face.
And then he drops back into being an introvert, and then all of a sudden he's like, ha, in your face again. And you probably met people like that, you're like, ooh, you get sort of the wrong vibe from them, you kind of feel like they're hiding something, and you don't fully trust them. So when it comes to sort of that context, you can sort of see straight through it. You can see who's an extrovert, you can see who's an introvert, you can see it a mile off. And it just requires that little bit of, from you on your part, a little bit of social calibration to understand what situation you're in, and do you really need to be Billy Big Bollocks right then, right
exactly now? And this is absolutely key to recognise, is that from childhood our personality establishes very quickly. It's like from the age of 3 your personality has a skeleton, like the bare bones of who you are is established right then. Now there's absolutely nothing we can do to change that, nothing at all. However, what we can do is we can build meat on the bones and adapt what we put into ourselves to make our personality more nuanced. So like there's a certain like scale for each of the personality types where you'll be say a little bit extroverted, you could be like way over the introverted section, you could be so agreeable it's ridiculous. Those are only anchors. What we can do is we can expand our boundaries past those anchors and make our personality more varied. Like it's like gears in a car, having different gears for different social situations. And Adam and I recognise this in that if we're at a party, we'll naturally be our extroverted selves.
Yeah.
We'll like revert to what we know in that situation. However, outside, sometimes, even though we're extroverted characters, sometimes we just want to be on our own and just not talk to anyone at all. That's going back to our skeletal personality types that we established when we were younger. Because when Adam and I were very little, like we didn't have much confidence at all, to be honest. Like we were really reserved and didn't really want to speak to anyone. That's what was established when younger, but over time, through our experiences, we've got to know, okay, this is how to act in this situation. This is how I can be naturally me, but like a larger version of me in a way. And that's where the extroversion comes in. So now we would appear very extroverted in most circumstances. What we are on the inside is a little more towards the introverted side. It's recognizing the different like gears for different situations when it's appropriate and using it only when it's appropriate.
Yeah, so if we've talked now about, accepting and like understanding where you are and being okay with who you are. But now if we move on to slightly the idea of what you said, changing the gears in a car, becoming that. See, I wrote about this recently. I said, don't try and focus on the word change. So don't try and change who you are, because then that's, as we know, change is scary, change hurts.
It certainly is.
Change is, uncomfortable. So we use the word evolving or like leveling up. So you don't change who you are, you level up who you are. So it's like, if you are an introvert, you can get to a certain level of extrovert. Not so much as like a natural would.
Exactly.
But you can still get to a level where you're comfortable being an extrovert, but you're also comfortable being an introvert because it's what you know.
So this is exactly what I was talking about with the base anchor being set at that point, but also through leveling up, you can expand that more towards the extroverted side, or conversely, if you're a massive extrovert, you can expand that more towards the introverted side. So you've got like personality spectrum in a way.
Yeah, and because obviously sometimes we realize, some people do naturally just realize that they are, introverted or whatever, but then they build their entire personality around these parts of them.
Exactly.
So they'll say, oh, I'm an introvert, therefore I'm not very confident. And they kind of solidify it so that they almost feel like they're never going to become anything other than that.
And it's hugely limiting.
Yeah, and that's not true. If you limit yourselves based on, obviously the past experience that you've been an introvert, you're not very confident, you're not good with girls, whatever kind of, path that's taking you down, it is possible to evolve from that. But first of all, you have to accept where you are now, and then also understand that change is possible for your identity and your personality.
That's the thing. Accepting that change is possible is the first step to real like leveling up and adapting. Because if you don't accept that it's possible, then it's just never going to happen.
Yeah, it's almost like what's that, Alcoholics Anonymous? The first step is to realize you have a problem. There
exactly,
you go.
Exactly. So let's take an example here, which is like talking to strangers or people who you don't know that well. Now, say we've got an introverted character, let's call him Dave.
Good old Dave.
Good old Dave. Now, Dave would likely be very, very nervous, being quite introverted, about talking to people he doesn't know. It's like, well, what am I going to talk to them about? Will they like me? I'm really, really nervous about this. So, if Dave wanted to get more confident at doing that, he needs to take like baby steps to get towards that. You're not going to throw him into a massive party and expect him to speak to the whole room, knowing where they come from, what job they do, what pets they have, and what they ate for dinner last night. It's just not going to happen. It's too much of a step change. So to do this in a natural, authentic way, perhaps first get Dave speaking to a relative that he doesn't know that well, maybe an uncle, like it's a family gathering. That might be just enough to make him feel a bit more confident, thinking, okay, if I can speak to my uncle about something, maybe I can take the next step. Maybe I could, like in a library, ask someone about a book they're reading or something like that. Just one-on-one, so nothing huge at the moment. So you can see we've gone from someone he might know vaguely well to someone he doesn't know at all one-on-one, perhaps then to like a group of people, say 3 or 4, until you get to a stage where he is in that party and he actually feels more at home than he would do normally. It'll take time to like completely get comfortable, but we can see we're making progress here, incremental progress, but progress all the same.
Yeah, it's like repetition of baby steps, yeah, 100%.
It is, absolutely. And eventually you get to the stage where what me and Adam do, which is talking to randomers on the street about their personality types and that sort of thing, and filming here in front of St James's Park with people walking past us. I mean, to an introvert that's unthinkable at that point. But given that me and Adam were also introverts back in the day, we've been on that journey and now we are at this stage.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just proving that these things are possible for you.
So before we end this video, I just want to go into a little bit of detail on maybe 3 tips on how to sort of baby step and push those comfort zone boundaries a little bit, and in order to sort of level up your identity and evolve as a guy.
A few quick examples.
Yeah. So the first one I'm going to bring up is talking to members of the opposite sex, because this is an area where many people are like, ooh,
can be
no.
terrifying.
Yeah, it is terrifying. It is terrifying. I know I've just released a video about this as well. It is terrifying to go up to a member of the opposite sex. And the thing is, the more you do it, so baby step through repetition, the more you do it, it becomes almost second nature, I'd say.
Repetition is the absolute key.
So, I mean, for me, a few years ago, if I was going to go into, like, say, Starbucks or whatever, and then order a coffee, I didn't want to talk to the girl behind the counter. So I'm using girls here because, you know, I'm a guy. I wouldn't want to talk to the girl behind the counter. It was like, yeah, I'll have a cappuccino. Yes, thanks, bye. There was no, like, small talk. Like,
very much eyes down, like, yeah, sure,
eyes down is a big one. If you're not confident, you tend to look down a lot. So, yeah, like, obviously talking to the members of the opposite sex is difficult, but if you find yourself in a situation where it's possible, and there's not really a lot of, like, negative consequences, like, sometimes you feel like talking to someone's a big deal.
Yeah.
But if you just ask someone in Starbucks how their day is going, like, it's not a big deal when you think about it.
It's the what have you got to lose sort of thing.
Yeah.
I'm probably actually grateful for you coming up and saying that to them.
Yeah, and to be honest, it's a win-win situation as well, because you feel better because you pushed, you know, you baby stepped a little bit, and you also made them smile because you were the first person that day to even initiate a conversation with them.
Exactly, absolutely.
Okay, so number 2 was the... Oh, what the fuck was number 2?
Number 2 was...
hobbies, wasn't it?
Hobbies, yeah.
Hobbies, yeah. The second thing I want to bring up as well is going into situations, say like a hobby, for example, that you wouldn't normally do. So for me, my good friend Jack, he always asks me to go like rock climbing and stuff like that. And I've never done it before, and I have a fear of heights. So for him to ask that to me feels uncomfortable for me. And although I haven't done it yet, Jack, you can hold me this, I will come with you. Because although, you know, I'm not a sporty guy, I'm afraid of heights, that's holding on to sort of my older identity.
It is.
And if I do it, although it feels uncomfortable, it's still another baby step into me feeling, oh, you know, I can do this, I can do, you know, rock climbing, I can go, what is it, spelunking? Yeah, spelunking. I can absolutely, like, it leads to other things, and that again increases your self-esteem and your value within yourself.
And this is exactly what we're talking about in terms of leveling up, adapt and overcome sort of manifestos. Is that when we actually put ourselves in these scenarios willingly, actually think, okay, I want to actually get something out of this, that's when we start making progress. So an example from me is starting a new job, which on the first day it can be pretty daunting. You don't know what you're doing really, you've just got into it, you don't know how the systems work, but taking those first small steps just to even introduce yourself is progress. Make yourself known. Start getting used to a system, start like doing a little dabble, like saying, okay, what's this like word processing system we're using? Okay, I get how to use that now. Okay, now we can go on to other sorts of processing systems. For me, in my job as an engineer, I was absolutely scared stiff of operating valves on plant because I had no idea what was going to happen when I operate that valve. Even though theoretically I had a good model in my head, I was still afraid that something was going to go wrong. An engineer came up to me one day and said, George, just do it. Just operate that valve.
Just do it!
Exactly. Just open that valve. What's going to happen is exactly what you think is going to happen. Nothing's going to go wrong. So I did it, and sure enough, the expected response was there. So that's the first step. Then it's going to like starting a pump, which is even more scary because it makes a huge noise when it starts. When you think something's wrong here, it's going to explode on me. But no, as long as you made the right preparations, start the pump, it's going to go fine. Now it comes to operating the actual reactor itself. So again, another step up to that next level, leveling up as I went through the job and becoming more and more confident in what I was doing. It'll always be scary at first, but as long as you're making those steps and repeating it again and again, you become a lot more accustomed to where you are, what it is you're doing, and success will follow. Okay guys, that's all we've got time for today. I'd like to thank Adam for coming to film this with me in front of the beautiful St James's Park in the background. And talking of football, England are playing this afternoon and it is coming home.
It is indeed.
So you better believe that we're going to beat France in the final on Sunday afternoon. So for now, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, like and subscribe. As well, hit the bell so you get every notification from Thoughts in Motion when Adam and I are producing videos, as well as Carl as well, who also produces videos on this channel. Stay safe guys and enjoy.
Peace out.